The Detroit Pistons defeat the Portland TrailBlazers in a very close game that came down to the wire, but they defeat them, getting back to 500 and winning their fourth straight game. We'll break down this game and everything else in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Ku Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. It's our goal by the end of this upcoming season, or this current season. According to the analytics, about 50% of you guys who watch or listen to the podcast are not subscribed. So please, if you haven't already, best way to support the podcast, hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Also, head over to LockedOnDaily.com, type in your email, and you'll get a Locked On Pistons daily newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. We are 3 spots away from the top 10 in subscribers with the newsletter. We got to get up there, so if you haven't already, go over there and hit the subscribe button over there as well. Your Detroit Pistons are 500. They had a chance to get to 500 earlier in the year against the Chicago Bulls and melted it away and kind of slid after that. They fought their way back. They went on a 3-game winning streak, and they had Portland tonight in the night of Chauncey Billups Appreciation Night. And it didn't look good at first. At first, the Pistons were down by 20 very quick, very, very quick. But they fought back, and they were able to win a close game to get them to 18-18. The Pistons have now won 4 straight games. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. And again, for the 100th time, they are back to 500. And for those who maybe aren't Pistons fans, or those who haven't been in the Pistons community for all these years, maybe you're thinking, well, why is that such a big deal? It's 500. Look, the Pistons fan base, the Pistons team, the Pistons players have been through a lot over the last few years, a crap ton. Also, they're 8-2 in their last 10 games, but they've been through a lot. And last year, they had the worst season in franchise history. And less than a year later, they are now playing 500 basketball. They are now tied for the 7th seed in the East. They are now 1 seed behind, or 1 game behind, the 5th-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. The Detroit Pistons are playing really, really good basketball for all of you guys. The team is improving. The young guys are taking a step forward. The role players are contributing. We'll talk about them later. Cade is really arriving on the scene as your star. And this team is giving the city of Detroit something to root for. Something to, everything's about the Lions right now. Rightfully so. Go Lions. Can't wait for this next week, man, or 2 weeks from now with the playoff game. I was shaking during this last week game against the Vikings. But you got the Lions obviously at the top of the town, but now you got the Pistons coming up. This should be a really, really great time for Detroit sports fans. You got the Pistons coming up. You got the Lions already here. The Tigers. This is someone who doesn't even watch baseball. I usually don't even watch baseball. I'm not a big baseball fan. I do play MLB The Show, I do have fun with that. But I rarely watch baseball. But this past season, with what the Tigers did, they got me watching because of how improbable what they pulled off was. They're coming up. You got the Tigers coming up. The Pistons are coming up. The Lions are already here. And even, again, I don't follow hockey, but it seems like from the Red Wings fans I talk to, they seem to be excited about the future as well. There's a lot of things to be excited for as a Detroit sports fan. Now, I know this is going a little bit away from just Pistons talk, but I think this is needed. Because over the last few years, and I hate to, make it seem like, we've arrived and, just for going 18-18. But I think it's I think this is reasonable to say. There were graphics all throughout the offseason being tweeted out by ESPN, by SportsCenter, by random sports accounts. The most dreadful sports towns over the last 7 years or whatever. Like the lowest win percentage of Detroit of sports towns in America, and Detroit was by far worst. And there was so much clowning going on with Detroit sports. There was so much trash talk being thrown into Detroit sports. It's been, and honestly, not many people could say anything back. Because over the last few years, outside the lines last year, it's been incredibly rough to be within the Detroit sports fandom. It's been incredibly rough. And it's been really rough for you guys, Pistons fans especially. But now in 2025, you got the Lions, who are the number 1 seed with a bye. You got the Pistons, after the season in which they had the worst year of the franchise, are now 1 game behind the 5th seed. They're at 500. They've won 4 straight games. They have their franchise player showing everyone that he's a franchise player. Go to NBA's, if you have Twitter, go on NBA, look up their account, and you'll see how much they're talking about Cade right now. Just go look up Cade's name on Twitter, how much he's being talked about nationally by ESPN, by SportsCenter. They're getting noticed. You have a franchise player to rally behind. You have a team playing well to rally behind. You got the Tigers, like I said, with the improbable run. And the most fun thing about this, too, for those of you who live in Detroit or near Detroit, all the stadiums are right next to each other. If you're not from Detroit, you haven't been to Detroit, the stadiums are literally all within a square block of each other. Like, you got the Lions Stadium here, then right across the street you got the Pistons Stadium, then you got across that street you got the Tiger Stadium, and then the Red Wings share the stadium with the Pistons. So all in this little like square area, you got all these teams, just this city, these fans just waiting for these teams, all in this little square block, to give them a reason to root for each other at the same time and have the city really blow up, to have the city really popping. And right now, I can't think of another time over the last 4 years. Actually, I know there hasn't been another time over the last 4 or 5 years where this upcoming week, this next 2 weeks, is going to be popping with the Lions going crazy with the 1 seed, with this playoff game, hosting the playoffs all their playoff games at home throughout the playoffs. And at the same time, you got the Pistons playing. And at the same time, you got the Pistons playing really well. You got Cade showing up to the game wearing Jameson Williams' jersey. You got Lions players showing up to the Pistons game, showing support. At this game, you got Aaron Glenn. This is just a great time. Again, I know that we went a little bit away. The first segment, I didn't want to spend too much just talking about this game. We'll get to that in the second segment. But for Detroit sports, this is a really, really fun time. I don't want to call it special because we haven't won anything. So I don't want to say special because that this is a town that's won championships. So don't want to say special because it's just a 500 record and one team's the first seed in the playoffs. Nothing's happened. Nothing special's happened yet. But at the very least, this is a fun time. You are experiencing a very fun moment, a very fun time to be a Detroit sports fan and be in the Detroit community. Because now you're not the laughing stock of the NBA, the laughing stock of the NFL, the laughing stock of just sports in general. Now you have something to root for. You have players to rally behind. And these teams are responding to that energy and they're responding to that support. So, again, we'll get to this game in the second segment coming up. I want to talk about how the role players really stood up and helped close out this game for the Detroit Pistons. It wasn't just Cade. These role players really showed up and helped close this game out against the Portland TrailBlazers. But listen, man, go Lions, go Pistons, heck, go Tigers, go Red Wings. Because right now, this is a really fun time to be a Detroit sports fan, man. It's a really good time. And again, I can't remember the last time it was like this. I can't remember the last time there was this much hope. I think that's the biggest thing too, and then we'll move forward, is that each one of these teams are giving you hope. And along with hope, it's not like, it's not empty hope. It's not just hope to have hope, like it was, I feel like, during the Weaver years with the Pistons. The Lions are giving you real hope. They're the 1 seed. The Pistons are responding like how they have this year, riding this type of winning streak with legit hope. The Tigers have given you legit hope. This city has hope. This city is vibrant again. This city is the fan base is excited. They're they're showing themselves everywhere. So, look, man, great win for the Pistons. We'll get to it. About to break it down right now, this specific game, but great time to be a Piston, or a great time to be a Detroit sports fan, man. Great time. Absolutely great time. Pistons 500, 18-18, one game behind the 5th seed. Let me know how you guys are feeling, man, about Detroit sports right now, how you're feeling about your Detroit Pistons at this time. Let me know, again, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Now, coming up, I want to discuss how the Pistons closed this game out. And if you look at the box score, you see Cade had 30-plus points, 32 points. But it wasn't just Cade. It wasn't just Cade that really showed up and closed this game out. And really, it was mostly others that showed up in the end of this game and closed this out. And why this team is really finding ways to have everyone that checks into the game impact in some kind of way. We'll talk about that coming up. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And as I've told you guys this many of times, a few years ago when betting became legal in Michigan, tried out FanDuel, didn't know where else to go, didn't know what else to try, so I tried out FanDuel. I haven't turned back since. I literally just used it as recently as tonight. And I have a 6-leg parlay actually going on right now with the NBA game night. First one was the Pistons to beat the TrailBlazers. I got that one. So we're waiting it out. That's the kind of thing you can do over on FanDuel. I'm always active on it. It's super fun, super self-explanatory, super easy to use, but most importantly, again, super fun to use. So visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'm going to say it one more time. Please go hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel, Locked On Pistons. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. We are now less than 800 subs away. Again, 50% of you guys who are watching and listening are not subscribed. We have a ton of people that listen and watch, but a lot of you guys just aren't subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. It's our biggest goal so far of the podcast is to get to that 10K. We want to get there by the end of the year. So please, if you haven't already, go hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it, guys. So the Pistons win this game 118-115. And they were led by Cade Cunningham, who had 32 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 48% from the field, 40% from deep, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, played an incredible game. Absolutely incredible game. And in the first quarter, the Pistons found themselves down by 20+. And that second quarter, they were led by the defensive players off the bench and Cade simply saying, we are not going out like this. And then in the third quarter, Cade completely took over the game. Scoring almost every time down the floor. The first, I believe, 12 to 14 points of the third quarter, all of them were generated by Cade, whether it was him scoring or him finding someone open and creating an assist. He took over the game in that third quarter and was absolutely giving it to the Portland TrailBlazers to the point where Chauncey Billups just started doubling them on every single pick and roll from here on out after that third quarter. So Cade got the Pistons back into the game after a very slow start, got them back into it, said, we ain't going out like this, we're winning this game, and went crazy during the second and third quarters to get them back within this game and make it a competitive game. Then the fourth quarter arrived, and guys showed up throughout that time, but really in the fourth quarter is where you saw guys outside of Cade Cunningham really step forward and have a big impact on this win. I want to shout this guy out because he has been the subject of how would I say? I don't want to say unfair, but he hasn't really gotten credit. He hasn't really gotten destroyed either, but he hasn't really gotten credit either. He's kind of just been blah. People haven't really, he hasn't really been discussed as a positive. People have been trying to move him out the starting lineup, including myself. But I do want to give him his flowers. THJ has now, at least on 3 different occasions, won the Pistons a game. On 3 different occasions. THJ is very, he's a hot and cold player. When he's on fire, he's going to go berserk. When he's cold, he's going to be freezing. But he has these spurts within games where he just goes unconscious and just like everything is a blur to him. And he just boom, 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 back to back to back to back threes. And that's exactly what he did in this fourth quarter. Anthony Simons went crazy for the TrailBlazers. He had 36 points. He had 8 threes made. 8 out of 12 from 3. And a lot of those threes, at least 4 of them, came within that fourth quarter. And they all were coming, trading back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth between him and THJ. He came down, hit a 3, then THJ came down, hit a 3. Anthony Simons comes out, hits a pull-up 3, then THJ hits a fadeaway 3. Then Anthony Simons comes out, hits another 3, starts talking to THJ, then THJ hits a catch-and-shoot, long-distance 3, starts talking right back to Simons. Like, those guys, for a good 2 minutes, were going back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, with made 3 after made 3 after made 3 after made 3. And THJ ended this game with 26 points. This is now at least the third game this year that without THJ going unconscious and without THJ really going off, they lose. They lose. And this is something that this team has needed. I've talked about it a lot on the podcast with Malik Beasley this year. But this is something this team has missed for the last 5 to 6, however long years from guys like that. They needed veterans that, one, wanted to be here, and two, were actually able to play. Not role players or veterans that, just rode the end of the bench and couldn't really play anymore. They needed veterans who fit around their young players, wanted to be here, and could actually play still. And you needed specifically high volume, high variance 3-point shooters for this team. And when I say that, I mean you needed guys who were going to get up a high volume of threes, and some nights they may go cold, like Malik Beasley did tonight, 1 of 9. But on other nights, when you have someone who is that good of a shooter and takes that many, they'll have a night where they save you. And for the last 5 years, the Pistons have not had that. I guess maybe you could say that with Alec Burks somewhat, but not so much. The Pistons have that with THJ. They have that with Malik Beasley, where these guys are going to take this many threes. And for the most part, they've been generally pretty good. But, every now and then they'll have a cold night. But most times, they've been hitting, and they'll have moments where they simply save you in a game because they have the ability to just go crazy for a 2-3 minute span and flip a game. And that's what THJ did here. So I want to give him a ton of credit because I don't think the Pistons win this game without THJ. Now I want to shout out Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley was 0 of 9 heading into the final 50 seconds of this game. 0 of 9. Almost all of his shots, I would say, were open shots. He even missed a point-blank layup at the rim at one point at the end of the third quarter. Wasn't a great night for Malik Beasley. Was missing open threes. Was, like I said, missing open shots. Wasn't a great night. But when the Pistons needed him to hit a shot, when the Pistons needed their role players, their veterans, to come through for their young players with 54 seconds left in this game, and the score 111-110, right after an Anthony Simons driving layup, Pistons had a chance to either sink or swim. And Cade or Tobias found Malik Beasley in the corner wide open, and he hits it. His one made shot of the night came with 54 seconds left to put the Pistons up by 4. The Pistons would go on to win this game by 3. They don't win this game without Malik Beasley hitting that shot. They just don't. So a guy, again, that went 0 of 9, was 0 of 9 leading up to that point, comes through for the Pistons at the end here. That's what you want out of your veterans. That's what the Pistons need out of their veterans. And that's one of the main reasons why they are 18-18. Why they're having such a good season. Yes, because Cade's been fantastic. Because Ivy was good when he was healthy. And, you've seen Asar Thompson really help. Like, there's other reasons. But their veterans are at the very tippity top of the list. Because majority of the time, they have shown up and done what they've needed veterans to do for years. So Malik Beasley, THJ, even in a bad night from Malik Beasley, he showed up and showed out. And at the end of the game as well, when Anthony Simons had a chance to tie the game, guess who came up with the on the ball steal to close it out? Malik Beasley. Those two guys showed up and showed out for the Pistons, man. Showed up and showed out. Another guy. Let's give him another shout out. Let's clap it up for him. Tobias Harris. Tobias has had a rough season. A very rough season. This hasn't been how he is accustomed to playing. He thinks of himself as a way better player of this. He's been a way better player than he has this year. And a few podcasts ago, we called him out. They paid you, man. They needed you to come in and show out. You're a better player than this. You've been a better player than this. You have to start showing it. And in this game, in the last game, and the game before that, since Jaden Ivey went down, Tobias Harris has showed up and showed out and been that secondary scorer that they've desperately needed. Against Orlando, he had 17 on 7 of 9 shooting. Was great. In the game against Charlotte, Cade had a terrible game. But guess who showed up, took up more shots, took up more volume? Tobias Harris. And he had his best game of the year, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals of 9-16 shooting, and 4 or 5 from deep. Showed up and showed out. Against Minnesota, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. Showed up and hit key shots in that fourth quarter when Anthony Edwards was trying to really get it going. He would hit some key shots to keep it the distance away. And in this game against Portland, only 8 shots for Tobias, but 17 points on 8 shots. 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 5 of 5 from the field. This right here, the last 4 games of Tobias Harris, is the Tobias Harris I thought the Pistons were getting when they signed him. This is the Tobias Harris that they thought they were getting when they signed him. When you got your veterans doing what you signed them to do, when you get your veterans to do what you've paid them to do, when they're just doing what you wanted them to do out of their limited role, you're not asking them to be superstars. When they have been what you've wanted from them in their limited roles, the Pistons are on a 4-game win streak. When those guys show up and do what you've asked them to do, 4-game win streak. THJ does what he has to do. Malik Beasley does what he has to do. Tobias Harris stepping up. He's the guy that has to take up some of the scoring now that Jaden Ivey's out. What does he do? He does exactly that. 4-game winning streak. These 3 guys have stepped up to the plate, and maybe not throughout full games, but like I mentioned, in moments, whether it's full game or in moments, they've stood up to the plate and hit a home run. Malik Beasley, big time shot tonight. Tobias, last 4 games, fantastic. THJ, on at least 3 different occasions this year, winning the Pistons a game because he can just go unconscious for a minute. Those 3 guys, look, you can talk about lineups. You can talk about the way they should be staggered. You can talk about who they should be played with, all that kind of stuff. You can talk about all of it. But for the most part, 100%, they've brought what you've needed to this team. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the Pistons are 18-18. One of the biggest reasons. So I wanted to give it up to those guys, man. And even Paul Reed, by the way, man. Paul Reed only got 6 minutes in this game. But again, when he's on the floor, the Pistons just dominate. They were plus 12 in his minutes. Another veteran that honestly probably feels like he should be getting consistent minutes. And I wouldn't disagree with them. Last 4 games when he would play, we talked about it on the podcast. Stuff in the stat sheet. No turnovers. Blocking shots. Stealing the ball. The veterans for this team, all of them, at numerous different times, have showed up and showed out for this team. They've been big time for them. So yes, Cade had a fantastic game. And yes, Cade's the kudos player of the game. And yes, Cade is showing that he's an all-star and trying to really push for a case for All-NBA. Yes, Cade's your franchise dude and he's showing that. But these vets are doing their role, are playing their part, and they're a big, big reason why you go from the worst season in franchise history last year to your young players seemingly maturing on and off the court, and the win-loss record looking way and way better as the season's going on. So I want to give it up to the Pistons vets, man. They're coming through, and this is what the Pistons young core have needed for a few years. And THJ, Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Paul Reed, they're absolutely providing it, man. Clap it up for them, man. They've been big time. Big time. Let me know what you guys think about the Pistons veterans, how they've played so far this year, and their impact on this team. Let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. When we come back real quickly, I want to discuss something you're starting to see the Pistons do more within the pick and roll. And I think it's a good adjustment by JB. I'm interested to see how it looks moving forward. I want to talk about that, and I'll break it all down for you guys when we come back. Basketball season is really starting to heat up, and there's no better way to get on real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with PrizePicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, PrizePicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron's going to drop 30 points, or maybe Luka's going to get more than 8 assists. Maybe you think Cade's going to drop another double-double, 30 points, 10 assists. PrizePicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. I've been using PrizePicks for a few years now. I find it incredibly easy to use. Another really fun things to do every single day. And one of my favorite things about PrizePicks is they have a flex play option, which means even if you get something wrong, one of your picks wrong, you can still win some money. You don't have to get everything right. With the flex play, you can still get one wrong and still double your money. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite thing about PrizePicks. Now's the time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win, to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Again, no need to win. You get the bonus guaranteed. That's what PrizePicks run your game. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. I want to let you guys know again, please hit that subscribe button. Our goal, 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We can get there. We're less than 800 subs away, and we get a ton of listens every single day, and 50% of you guys are not subscribed. So we easily could get there. I just need you guys to go over and do it. It's the best way to support the podcast. I really would appreciate it. All right, so there's been an adjustment that JB Bickerstaff has been sprinkling in more and more game by game with the Detroit Pistons. And it's within their pick and roll defense I've really noticed it. And, you know, I'll go ahead and, you know, I'll throw him under the bus. Locked On Mavs host, Nick. Go at him on Twitter. Go to their comment section and say, Nick, when are you going to allow Ku to start using clips on his show? Because we are, hopefully soon, we should be allowed to use clips to where I can put clips on the screen and break them down on the podcast. Because I really would love to get these clips. I have 5 clips here, but I can't show it on the podcast for obvious reasons. But we're in the process of doing it. Go over to Locked On Mavs and let them know, Nick, man, let's speed up this process. You feel me? Ku needs it. But what they've been doing within the pick and roll, for the majority of the season last year and majority of the beginning of the season, they primarily were in drop coverage with Jalen Duren, and they sprinkled in drop and switching with Isaiah Stewart. However, over the last 2 weeks or so, they've really started to get real aggressive in the pick and roll, where they have, for example, I think it really started when Paul Reed was in the rotation and he was getting minutes. They started to have him blitz pick and rolls and play aggressive at the level. He was meeting the ball handler extremely high, to the point where it allows you to kind of get handsy, try to knock away bounce passes, try to knock away the ball handler. Like, it's a lot more aggressive defense. And you saw it happening with Paul Reed when he was in the lineup, especially. He was doing it nonstop, and it was creating so much havoc for the Pistons defense, and it was why, really, they were thriving so much with Paul Reed on the floor. Now, again, I'll try to explain it for you guys here. The reason why it creates so much havoc for the Pistons, let's say when Paul Reed was in the game, or actually, it doesn't even have to just be Paul Reed, because my point is they're starting to do it with Jalen Duren as well. And why it could be effective, I guess I should go to, is this. One, it takes the thinking out of it for Jalen Duren. You don't have to, when you're in drop coverage, it takes a lot of thinking and a heavy understanding of angles. How high should you be on what player? How far back should I be? I have to contain the ball handler. I also have to take away the lob. You have to think a lot. It takes a lot of again, thinking, and you have to understand angles. It's really, I know it seems like watching it, and if you haven't played basketball, I know it seems like, just drop, it doesn't seem like it's hard, but it's incredibly difficult, and not everyone can do it because it requires a lot of thinking. At a fast pace too. It's like high level processing speed. You have to have it. When you're blitzing, you're really just telling him, when the screen goes, I want you to get aggressive at the ball handler. I want you to be on the other side of that screen and just get handsy. Try to force a turnover. Don't allow them to get around you. Trap them. Force them to pick the ball up. Like, that's all you're telling them to do. Go do that, and that's simple. Now, it takes the thinking out of it for a guy like Jalen Duren. It allows a guy like Paul Reed, who's incredibly quick laterally and incredibly quick with his hands, as you've seen when he gets turnovers within the pick and roll, when he blitzes guys. And a lot of ball handlers don't like it. A lot of ball handlers just don't like getting blitzed. It makes them pick the ball up. It makes them get the ball out their hands. A guy like Anthony Edwards, I know, wouldn't like it because it means he's getting doubled. Stars don't like it. They don't like getting doubled. Unless you're like Cade, who realizes when it happens, that means you should be able to find an open guy. But I digress. The other thing that allows this defense, allows JB to really, experiment with this defense and try to start sprinkling it more, which he has, which they weren't able to really do as much tonight against Portland, but I'm about to explain to you why. When you have Asar Thompson on the back on the back level, you either, one, have a center who's able to cause havoc, or two, because you're blitzing, if you have a guy like Asar behind you, you also can trust him to now cause problems. Because in this game that Asar had 6 steals, I have the clips in front of me. 3 of those steals were from him, the Pistons blitzing a pick and roll, and as soon as they blitz, the ball handler picking it up, and the quickest easy read is immediately to the roll man. But Asar, because of how quick, how insane his processing is, how quick he is on his feet, how good of a processor he is. He sees the game like in slow motion. You guys know that's been like my biggest compliment of him, going all the way back to pre-draft, why I love him as a prospect so much, because of his thinking and his processing speed. His quickness, his athleticism, his wingspan, his defensive ability, all that stuff. He's able to be all over the place. So as soon as you blitz that pick and roll at the top of the key, or blitz the pick and roll at the wing, and the center rolls, Asar is waiting for you to make that pass. As soon as you make that pass to the pick and roll for the rolling big, now you got to start rotating from the opposite wing, opposite corner, and he's picking that pass off, and they're getting out in transition. And I can't tell you how many times the Pistons have caused that type of turnover, have caused that kind of situation where it opens up a fast break opportunity over the last week and a half or so. They're starting to do it more and more. And again, they couldn't really do it tonight because they didn't have Asar. But if you have Ron on the floor, if you have Asar on the floor, you can really try to wreck teams' defense or offenses. And you saw Asar completely wreck the Timberwolves offense. And I think a lot of it has to do with blitzing the pick and rolls. And I think, again, not only because you have Asar does it allow you to create these fast break opportunities, it allows it puts your defensive playmaker like an Asar, it allows him to, or you're basically telling him, go make plays. And he's a playmaker. He's a defensive playmaker. A lot of people are offensive playmakers. When you think playmaker, you're thinking offensive. But when you play that style of defense, you're basically allowing Asar to roam off ball and telling him, go make plays. Go be a star on defense. And he was able to do that against the T-Wolves, and he's done it at other points throughout the year when they've done this. What it also does, like I said earlier, you also can have a guy like Paul Reed who can be like that playmaker in the pick and roll as well because of how good he is with it. But also it makes it easier on Jalen Duren as well. It makes it a lot easier on Duren to where he struggles in drop coverage right now. We know he struggles defensively, but when you tell him to just blitz and contain the ball handler, there was one possession, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. There was one possession against Minnesota, and I tweeted out when it happened, where they tried to blitz a pick and roll against Anthony Edwards, and Jalen Duren just let Edwards go right around him. That cannot happen. If you're blitzing a pick and roll, that ball handler cannot get around the guy blitzing. You have to cut that ball handler off, and at the very least, he's going to have to split you. But he cannot go around you. If you allow him to go around you, you are cooked. You are now basically in a 4-on-2 situation. You're cooked. You're absolutely cooked. Or a 5-on-3 situation. You can't allow that. So he can't allow that to happen. But all you're asking him to do is just contain your side, trap basically, make him pick up the ball, and maybe try to create some havoc. I think it makes it a lot easier for him. And again, it doesn't require as much thinking at a fast rate and understanding of angles and all that stuff. It's not, I don't think it's complex of a pick and roll defense. The other thing, the downside to it though, is when you go against a guy like a Luka, when you go against a guy like a LeBron, they're going to be able to see over the trap, and they won't just throw it to the rolling man every time. They'll be able to throw a skip corner pass, and that can really kill it. But if your rotations on the back end are really crisp, you can get away with it. You can still cause problems, especially if your big has quick hands, is getting active in the pick and roll. But again, you do have to be crisp with your rotations on the back end if you're going to do this, because it is going to put you in a lot of 4-and-3 situations. So you better be quick with the rotations in the back end. However, I think the results so far have been really good, especially with Paul Reed and especially with Asar Thompson in the lineup. And I want you guys to just pay attention to that moving forward. I think it's something you're going to continue to see them do more and more and more often, especially when Asar is on the floor. So let me know in the comment section down below if this is something that you guys have noticed. And if it isn't, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think it's a good way, a good adjustment by JB defensively? Again, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free to available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review or whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Till next time, peace out.